Hey, so I know it's been a really long time again since my last video. Hopefully I will be able to get videos up more often. I found it hard to get spare time because, you know, being a mum of twins is really time consuming, and it's very hard to try and do everything that you need to do in your house, look after your kids, and also like take them out, and for me to go out and things like that, and it's very hard to find spare time. But now that we're in a better routine, I'm hoping I can get them out, get some videos out. But this one in particular is about my birth story. I know it's a long time coming, but it's something that I'd really like to share with people. So if that's something that you want to see, then stick around. So first things first, I do have a sweet in my mouth. It's a cough sweet because I think I'm coming down with a bit of a cold. So just try and ignore it if you can, but my throat is really sore. So first things first, I'm laying in bed. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning and I feel like this big punch in my stomach, and I thought, that's weird. This feels a lot stronger than like a normal kick in pregnancy. So I was like, okay, this is weird. I laid there for a little bit more because I was still like half asleep, and I laid there for a little bit more, and then I started to think, oh my gosh, what if that was my waters? I don't know where that thought came from. I just thought that just felt different. So I stood up and sure enough, it was my waters. It just came gushing out. It was crazy. And so at that point, again, I was like, is that my waters? Because no one really tells you like what it feels like or how to tell the difference. I didn't know if I'd peed myself. I don't know. So I called Yas straight away and I said, I think my waters were just broken. Either that or I've peed myself. And he was like really excited straight away. He was like, woo, it's party time. And then he was like, right, I'm turning around. Because at this point he was driving on his way to work. And then he obviously had to turn around to come back home. And then I called my mum, but I was on the, because I have carpet upstairs, I was standing up and my waters were just gushing out, and I thought, well, I don't really want this all over my carpet, so I ran to the toilet. And I just sat on the toilet just to kind of drain. And then I called my mum and I said, oh wow, I think my waters are broken. But like as soon as my waters broke, I started to get this awful feeling, like, and it was contractions. And they were coming really fast. There wasn't much space between each contraction. They weren't that terrible in like pain, but they were really close together. And I'd never been told anything about how to check contractions, like how to know like when you're about to give birth. I didn't know any of that. So sorry. So I called my mum and I said, yeah, I'm in labour. My waters are broken. And she was like, oh my god. And they said, where are you now? And I said, I'm sitting on the toilet. Oh no, because I told her about my contractions and that they were close together. And she said to me, well, where are you now? And I said, I'm sitting on the toilet. And then she said, get off the toilet. And I was like, what? And then she was like, well, if your contractions are close together, you need to get off the toilet, you know. And even me, naively thinking they're just going to whoosh out of there and straight into the toilet. So I got off the toilet and I went to lay down and I waited. Well, I didn't lay down because I couldn't, I could barely focus. Like I was so excited and nervous and overwhelmed. So I just kind of stood around, like walking around, like waiting for Yas to get home. And I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was just like pottering around doing nothing, just kind of trying to pass time. So Yas came home and I said to him, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. Like no one tells you. When you're pregnant, no one says like, right, you know, if your waters break, you need to do this, this and this. No one gives you any steps. You just kind of have to wing it. So I was like, okay, well, I need to call my midwife. And they never pick up their phone. so I couldn't get through to like the number that I was given. So on their voicemail it gives you like a number for like midwives in the area. So I called that number and they were like, yeah, go to Triage because it does sound like your waters are broken. And he's like, right, let's go. So I put some of his old trousers on because I don't think I had any like loose, like nice, like trousers that I didn't care about getting like dirty and stuff. So I wore some of his. And then we drove all the way to hospital. I was literally gushing all the way in his car. Got to the hospital and I had a contraction like in the doorway, so I had to like stop and like bend over. It's my monitor, I have to check the kids. I thought I heard one of them, but they're fast asleep. My waters are still gushing everywhere, which was so embarrassing because you enter the hospital but you have to go upstairs to Triage. When you enter, there's like a coffee shop here and then a waiting room, and everyone in the waiting room was just watching me and it was really embarrassing. But anyway, I had my contractions and then I was able to walk again, so I went up to Triage. They confirmed that I was in labour and then they put the bands around my belly and they checked how dilated I was, and I was only 1 centimetre, so the babies weren't coming anytime soon. So that was in Triage and they were just basically waiting for a room to open up so that I could go in and like get myself comfortable and whatnot. Because they weren't going to send me home because I was a high-risk pregnancy. 1, because of twins, and 2, because of the infertility issues that I had previously to getting pregnant. So they found me a room, and eventually I got myself like kind of settled. My hospital bag was already in the car, so I didn't have to worry about that, but I was just kind of chilling out in the room, like laying on the bed, or I was hunched over a lot of the time because I found it easier to breathe through my contractions bent over the bed rather than like laying down because I couldn't relax. And they knew I wanted an epidural but they couldn't give it to me yet, so I was just kind of waiting, trying to like waste time getting an epidural. And then I was in labour for about 4.5 hours, 5 hours maybe. 4.5. I think it was 4.5 hours, 5 hours. Without any painkillers, and it was horrible. I'm not good with pain. I don't cope with pain very well, so it was a lot for me and I was begging for the epidural. And then about 1 p.m. They were like, yeah, we can give you your epidural now. And then they kind of talk you through that. They give you all the paperwork, all the statistics of things that could go wrong. You basically have to sign your life away. But when you're in so much pain, you just don't care. So they didn't give it to us to read. They read it out to us and then was like, do you want to go forward? There's a lot of dust in this room. And was like, do you want to go forward? And I was like, yes, hell yes, I want to go forward. So yeah, so they had me hunch over the bed with like a pillow in my arms. Obviously I had my gown on. So they kind of, there's a split in the back of the gown. So they were able to open that and kind of get to my spine. And they kind of like had me hunch over and they had me like hold on to Yas's hands from what I can remember. And then they basically tell you cannot move. Like you have to stay extremely still, which is really scary because when you're having contractions, you're like, I'm scared I'm going to have a contraction and this is going to go terribly wrong. But they do check the monitor and they do try and do it like when they think you're not going to have a contraction. So yeah, they did that. They numbed my back, so I didn't feel a thing. I didn't see the needle. I was terrified of an epidural. Before I even got pregnant, I was like, I don't ever want an epidural. But it's nothing to be scared of. It's a lot of paperwork and that side of it is scary. But the actual doing of it isn't that scary. Or at least I didn't have a bad experience of it. So that was nice. And then, yeah, we just kind of, after that, you literally feel like a coldness. I think it's like from like your shoulders and it goes all the way down to your toes. and then you can't feel anything. Like your lower half is just completely dead. You can't move. So yeah, that was kind of nice because I was done with being in pain. So yeah, we just kind of got some food, we chilled, we chatted, whatever. And then so at about 5 p.m, so I think they checked me like once before this, but then at 5 p.m. they checked me for dilation again, and I'd only gotten up to 2 centimeters, and that was, hold on, I have notes here. I'd only got to 2 centimeters, and that was what's it called? No, they said two and a half centimeters, and they were giving me a half like at a push, but they were saying I was not progressing very well. So they brought up oxytocin, saying I might need some oxytocin to help with the dilation, but they were like, we'll just give it a little bit of time. So it was about 6 p.m. At this point we had like starry lights on, so the sky looked like a galaxy, and we had our music, and it was really chilled. Like I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. Just very chilled, no drama kind of birth. So I was really happy. They were giving me lots of Lucozade, which made me super happy. And at about 6 p.m. they came in and they said, we're going to give you some oxytocin, or they asked me if I wanted it, and I said yes. So then they did that into my drip, in hopes that I was going to dilate, because they checked again and I was still 2.5 centimeters, 0.5 at a push. And then yeah, from then it was pretty much just kind of, because when you have an epidural, obviously you can't feel when you're having contractions, so you have the screen next to you and you can see like the on the graph, it's like paper that just keeps coming out, it prints out, and you can see it jumps up when you're having a contraction. So they were checking, like making sure that I was having contractions, seeing how dilated I was, all of that stuff, and everything was fine, but I just wasn't dilating. We were kind of like sleeping and again eating, chilling, watching things on our phones, like whatever. It was just a lot of passing time, but nothing was really happening at this point. We've gone from 8 a.m. to when I started, and we're now at 2 a.m. That's like what, 20 hours, I think. 20 hours, something like that. So I was in labour for 20 hours. They came in and they all through the night they were kind of like checking me, seeing how dilated I was. But they came in and they basically said, we're thinking that we might need to get you in for a C-section. You're not dilating, you're still at 2 centimeters, 2.5 at a push, and nothing's changing. But they did make sure that I knew there was nothing wrong with the twins. They were perfectly fine. They were comfortable in there, but they were like, we could give you another 4 hours, which will take you to a whole 24 hours. But at this point, we think it's best to get them out, but it's entirely up to you if you want that extra 4 hours. And I was just like, no, I'm kind of done. I just want to meet them. Impatient. So I was like, no, let's just do it. Let's just go for a C-section, because it was unlikely that I was going to dilate within 4 hours anyway. So that's what we did. We kind of got me prepped for a C-section. They took Yas in. Oh, and a side note, they told Yas, I wasn't aware of this. Or maybe I was, but I was just so tired I wasn't listening. They told Yas something about they needed to get the twins out because it was my top twin, Ezra, whose waters had broken. I should probably check that with Yas, because I'm sure that's what he said. But basically they were like, one of them has their waters broken and the other one doesn't. So we kind of need to move things along now. I didn't know that. He told me like literally a month ago. But anyway, so I was like, okay, yeah, let's go for a C-section. They took Yas. He went and got into his gown and his hat and stuff on. I think you have to cover your hair. Yeah. They prepped me. I think they upped my epidural, basically, so I was complete. No, they didn't do that yet. What did they do with me? Oh, they just kind of wheeled me into the room where I was having a C-section. It was funny because they said to me, right, can you get yourself... They wheeled my bed, so I'm like laying flat. And they wheeled my bed and they said, right, can you get yourself from this bed? So imagine, here's where I'm having a C-section. This is a little bed. And then this is me wheeling in on the bed. And they wheeled them next to each other. And they basically said, can you get yourself from here to here? So that we can get you prepped on this C-section bed. And I was like, no, I can't move because I have a C-section. I mean, an epidural. And they were like, yeah, but can you like shimmy yourself? And I have never been so embarrassed. It was like dead weight. I was just like this, trying to move myself. It was so bad. And in the end, they had to get my sheets and drag me onto the other bed and then pull the sheets from under me, because I couldn't move. I could not move myself. And then even then they upped my epidural, basically, to make sure that I really couldn't feel anything. So they kept putting more of it through, and then they would like pinch like certain areas of my body. I think they pinched me here and they said, oh, can you feel that? And sometimes I'd be like, yeah, and then they'd be like, okay, give it another few minutes. And eventually I was like, no, I can't feel it. And then they pinch you. Can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you feel this? And I couldn't feel anything. So that was the go ahead of the C-section. But they had me kind of laying on the bed. Yas was sitting next to me and I had to have my arm over Yas and then the other arm here with like the drip. And then this arm was around Yas. And we gave the midwives Yas's phone to take photos and stuff. And then they were like, yep, we're going to start. And yeah, I was just kind of in there waiting. Just, you kind of feel a little bit tugging, if anything. But that, you don't feel any pain or anything like that. So it was absolutely fine. And then next thing you know, it wasn't long. It was like 15 minutes, I'd say. And they said to me, okay, like get ready for baby number 1. And then they pulled down the thing and they held up my daughter, who, what was she? She was born at 3:29. It literally says it on here. She was born at 3:29. And she was just kind of like all gangly when they pulled her out. And I just remember bursting out crying and I was really overwhelmed. And it was almost like, it wasn't even like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed with love. It was just overwhelmed with knowing that I'm laying there with like my insides like hanging out. And I'm still awake. And I've been awake for a very long time. And there's now a baby in the air that I now have to look after. It was all like, what the hell is going on? So then they went and took her, I think, they went and took her and weighed her. And then while they were doing that and like getting her kind of cleaned off and stuff, while they were doing that, they went and they pulled Ezra out, right, baby number 2. He was born at 3:32 a.m. in the morning, so they're 3 minutes apart. And he looked the same. I mean, they don't look the same, but they were just kind of like hanging there. Yeah, and then Yas went. I was, again, crying and overwhelmed and not really knowing like what to do or what was going on. Yas went and put their nappies on, went to help get them cleaned up and stuff. Again, midwives taking photos of us. Taking photos of Yas while I was getting stitched up. Then Yas went with them while I was still getting stitched up and whatnot, put back together. Yas went with them and then I was wheeled into the room and then I gave them their first feed. And that is the story of my birth. It's just, there's no drama. It was just perfect. And I know like I wanted to do a natural birth. It didn't really work out. It is what it is. It didn't really bother me. I just had a very normal a very zen kind of birth, and I'm so happy and pleased that I didn't have to experience any of the difficulties that other people go through. So yeah, that's how my little cherubs came into the world, and I just love that story, and it's such a happy story for me. Anyway, thank you for getting through that with me. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story of how my twins came earthbound. If you like this video, then like this video. If you have anything to say or any questions, then comment down below, or you can reach me on my Instagram, which I've put in the description. Or if you want to see more, hopefully I'm going to get videos out a lot more often and actually start to document things. I really want to, at least. If you want to join me on that documentation of my twin life, then please subscribe to my channel.